Connection with an inspirational word for you. This is the Bishop's Connection to the Facebook family and friends. The woo. This is the Bishop's Connection.
Hello to my woo, my Facebook, and my YouTube family. Welcome to Bishop's Connection. Before we begin sharing today's lesson, let's cross those arms. You know what we do every week. And begin to shake those shoulders. And begin to loose the woo love on one another. There you go. I know you feel better. I know I do. Well, today, I'm continuing my series entitled Principles for Biblical Behavioral Change. And this is part 2 of our teaching. Let's look in Luke's Gospel, chapter 22, verse 40 through 42 to establish our base scripture. And the word of the Lord reads, "And when he was at the place, he said unto them, Pray that ye enter not into temptation. And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast, and kneeled down and prayed, saying, Father, if thy be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done." Last week, I told you that man's will determine whether he will act on scriptural principles as a basis for his behavior change. Life, remember, is choice driven. We live or die by the choices we make. The quality of life promised in the scriptures for the believer does not automatically come to pass. Listen, a person must follow godly principles to experience the promises of the scriptures. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about how to establish your will and how it is your responsibility, not God's. Did you hear me? Establishing your will is your responsibility, not God's. As a backdrop, we're going to examine an event in the life of Jesus' disciple, Thomas, as he provides insight into establishing the human will. If you will, look in the book of John, chapter 20, verse 24 and 25. And the word of the Lord reads, "But Thomas, one of the 12 called Didymus, was not with them when Jesus came." Talking about the other disciples. "The other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Lord." But listen to what Thomas said. "But he said unto them, Except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, he said, will not believe." Did you hear him? Thomas said, "I will not believe." Thomas was saying that if I'm going to set my will to believe that Jesus resurrected from the dead, I need to examine the body of Jesus physically or personally. Understand something. Thomas' honesty gives us insight into how we function psychologically. Thomas' criterion for setting his will to believe was a hands-on, I call it sense realm evidence, the examination of Jesus's body. You see, each of us has a different requirement that must be satisfied before setting our will to believe anything. Jesus appeared 8 days later and allowed Thomas to examine him based, listen, on his criterion. Jesus then says something that gives us incredible insight into the systematic way man functions. Jesus turned from Thomas and said, listen to what Jesus said. He said, "Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed." You see, Jesus challenged Thomas to change the basis on which he established his thinking. Jesus says, "Blessed are they that have believed and have not seen." You see, beloved, blessed means empowered to prosper. Say that with me. Say, blessed means empowered to prosper. Therefore, Jesus is saying that those who have not seen and yet have believed are empowered to prosper. You understand this? Jesus' statement also means that we have the power to define the criteria for establishing our will to believe. Since I have the ability to change the criteria, I am in control of my will, and I am not and do not have to be a victim of how my will functions. Let's take a look into Luke's gospel to see why Jesus was so emphatic about Thomas changing the criteria of his will and how he set his will. And again, let's go back to our text. And it says, "And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast, and kneeled down and prayed, saying, Father, if thy be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done." Understand this, that Jesus was able to say this because he knew what he had done in the Garden of Gethsemane. He reversed what Adam did in the Garden of Eden. When Adam ate the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, he essentially was saying, listen, not your will, Lord, but my will be done. Isn't that something? Please pay close attention to this critical thought. When you place your will above God's will for your life, you subject the control of your will to Satan. Did you hear me? Let me say it again. When you place your will above God's will for your life, you subject the control of your will to Satan. You see, in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus said, listen, not my will, but thy will be done. Beloved, set your will according to God's criteria and watch what he would do in your life. In next week's lesson, we're going to explore the fact that change is the product of human effort and sustained by divine help. Thank you for tuning in to the Bishop's Connection with your host, Bishop Dr. Henry R. Williams. I want you to remember to do 3 things for me: like, comment, and share. Let me bless you before we let you go today. May the shalom of God be upon you and your family. Love, peace, and blessings. Look to see you next week, same place, same time. I love you, and there's not a thing that you can do about it. And I also want you to remember, I am praying for you. Stay safe. Remember to wear your mask and have a blessed and prosperous, favor-filled week. Love you. See you next week. God bless.
This is the Bishop's Connection with the inspirational word for you. This is the Bishop's Connection to the Facebook family and friends. The woo. This is the Bishop's Connection.